Hey, welcome to a brand new edition of the Rundown with Ramon, the Celebrity CEO Show. Today, we're going to talk about how to get more from your podcast. Now, if you're hearing the sound of my voice and it doesn't sound like it usually sounds, there's a little bit of pep missing. It's because I'm not feeling so well. And I thought today, I said, you know what? Should I show up and still deliver a show? Or should I just stay on the couch under the covers? Obviously, you can tell my decision. I didn't decide to stay on the couch under the covers, but I'll probably head back in a bit. So welcome to a brand new episode. But yeah, I'm not feeling so great. What happened was yesterday, I took my hat off in the trains of New York City. And it's not bad weather. You see people jogging out there, people out there moving like whatever, it's just me and my body. It's got to be really, really hot for me to have my head uncovered. If not, I get a little sick. So I'm okay. I think I'm on the recovery side. It was just like a 24-hour or less sickness. I was out about 1:30 or so in the afternoon, took my hat off just for a few minutes. And then I started feeling chill, started feeling a little cold. So if you're feeling a bit of a pep missing from my step, I wouldn't say forgive me, but I'd say now you know what's going on. Ramon Ray's not feeling so great, not feeling his best. But I still wanted to show up because I think I'm feeling well enough to get up and add value here. Tara Anderson. So glad you're here today. Thanks for being here on the Celebrity CEO Show, the Rundown with Ramon. Indeed, I'm feeling a bit better, I think, but I'm feeling good enough actually to be on this show for sure. So welcome everybody. Glad you're here today. And I hope the show still sounds okay. I hope it's okay. Even though inside I'm not feeling at 100%, I'm feeling closer to 90%, but the show will go on. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Let's begin. So let's dive right into it. And the question of the day is, how do you get the most from your podcast? But not just even how do you get the most from your podcast? How do you get the most from any content you produce? And I wanted to have some cool graphics, some pictures and all that. But I'm just like, you know what? I am just too tired, not feeling so well, as I may have mentioned before, if you just joined. And so therefore, we're going to move on with the show. And let me know if it still provides value to you. How do you get the most from your podcast? But at a higher level, how do you get the most from any type of content you're doing? Because I am of the firm belief that there's no reason to do content just for one thing, but you can maximize the content you're doing. Now, of course, if you have an amazing YouTube channel and you're focused on growing your YouTube channel, maybe you focus just on YouTube and do good content there. But man, at least you should be sharing it on other platforms. So let's dive into a few things that you can do today. And welcome again to a brand new edition of the Rundown with Ramon, the Celebrity CEO Show. So the first mantra of the day is I'm encouraging you to always get the most out of any content you create. If you took the time to create content, any asset or graphic, and it's only getting one use out of it, you're probably underutilizing your content. Now, again, there's a limit you can do. We're small business owners. You're a one-person shop. You have a small team. You're not, some big billion-dollar company with a whole creative team, most of you. So there's probably a limit you can do. But I'm encouraging you to think more strategically, I'm encouraging you to begin to play chess, not checkers, with your content. And to start at the top, what are podcasts for? Why are they so great? And again, if you've never done a podcast before, this may be the time where you decide, you know what, hey, it's time for me to do a podcast. And I must tell you, a podcast is an absolutely great way to amplify your brand and connect with future customers or stakeholders. Now, when I say future customer, anybody who's bought from you once, they're a future customer because you want them to buy from you again. So producing content, many of you have seen this show, The Rundown with Ramon, the Celebrity CEO Show. I'm on episode 200 and something. I think it's getting up to 230, 240. You guys are here. You're showing up. And it's not about the numbers, I must say. Again, numbers are important. Mr. Beast has zillions and zillions of followers, one of the biggest YouTube channels around, 330 million followers. So numbers are important. Numbers do mean something. But for most of us, focus on giving quality content, focus on showing up consistently, and then measure it over time if it's working or not working. This is what you want to focus on, the consistency of your content and delivering quality content and checking in with your audience if you're doing a good job, if you're sharing with them what they want to know. And again, thanks for joining me. My name is Ramon Ray. This is the Celebrity CEO Show. Not feeling so well today. I'm getting a little better. With those who don't know, those who just joined, took off my hat and yesterday in the train, and I guess the breeze and the cool air kind of got to me. So immediately I could feel myself getting a little feverish and things, but I'm on the mend. I'm good enough to do the show here. So thank you for your grace. The show may not have the usual pep that you're used to, but I'm glad you showed up and you're here. So, number three is consistency is so important in any content you're doing, but especially in podcasting. Now, you may choose to batch your content and roll it out bit by bit. You may choose to do it live on demand, just do it, run with it. Many ways to do it, but the consistency is so important because remember, people will buy from you once or more than once, but the people who will listen to you over a year, over 6 months, that's really where you want to go. Again, welcome to a brand new edition of the Rundown with Ramon, the Celebrity CEO Show. Number four, understand that most future customers are not ready to buy. This is a key thing I want you to know. A podcast fills the void to help you build trust and help you establish your expertise. It's not necessarily a get rich quick, buy from me now, click here. It could be. You should have a call to action. For example, I invite you to go to celebrityceo.com, sign up for our free Celebrity CEO personal branding blueprint at celebrityceo.com. I gave you a call to action. You're here and you want all the tools you can to grow your business. But a podcast rarely is that tool that's saying buy, 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 buy. It's more that tool that establishes trust and establishes and showcases your expertise over time. This is absolutely, absolutely important. Number five, what I want you to keep in mind always, how can you now leverage and reuse your content? One, what about having podcast to article? You've taken the time to deliver a great podcast. Have you thought about making your podcast into an article? I do that with most of the podcasts I do. Restream is a great way to upload your audio file, and it will put it into a transcript of verbatim notes of what you talked about. And then I take that transcript and put it in AI and say, create an article from it. That's what I do. You can do it too. So podcast to article is a great thing that you can do. That's a way to reuse the content that you're doing. Another thing to think about is podcast to short form video, snackable content. Maybe your show's 30 minutes, maybe it's 20 minutes, maybe it's an hour. But now you can take that podcast and turn it to reels. Excuse me, turn it to reels, turn it to snackable content. Hey, LaShawn, glad you're here today. Glad you're here today and love that you want to do a podcast for sure. Podcasts are easy to do. Easy for me to say, of course, because I've done so many, but it's easy to do. And definitely, LaShawn, you should do a podcast. LaShawn, what would you do a podcast on? Hey, Alexandria, good day to you. Glad you're here today on the Rundown with Ramon show. Again, those of you who just joined, if you're not hearing the pep in my step that I usually am, I'm not feeling so well. Yesterday, I didn't have my hat on when I was outside. A mistake. And so I'm not feeling 100%, but I didn't want to not do this show. So I'm here today. So podcast a short form video or snackable content. You have your long form podcast. And right now, you can go to my Instagram and see how I do it. Go to my Instagram, Ramon Ray Smart Hustle, Ramon Ray Smart Hustle. Or check out my reels on Facebook. I even put content on LinkedIn. I put them across platforms. And you'll see videos that look like this a little bit, but it's in a reel. So don't waste your content. And people love snackable content. Most people are not going to listen to a 30-minute podcast, an hour podcast, a 45-minute podcast. Sometimes they will. I do, but I have to be drawn in first and realize there's something there for me. I listened to the whole episode of The Rebooting, 45 minutes. I listened to the Creator Podcast, 45 minutes, long form podcast. I do listen to if it can provide value to me. So many of you here are listening to the sound of my voice, the Rundown with Ramon, the Celebrity CEO Show, because you're interested in how to leverage personal branding to grow your business. So that's a good thing. But also it's good to capture people and bring people in with that short form snackable content that you can share out to draw them in and get them interested in what you're doing so they can know that you have longer content for them. Podcast shared with your guests. One thing you can always do, especially if you have guests on your podcast, is share your podcast with the guests. Now, sometimes I've been on podcasts and it seems like people wanted to force me to do a podcast. Hey, Amber, good to see you here. Thank you so much. And Amber, I know I owe you something. I have your address right behind me. And I keep forgetting to send out what I need to send you. Just seeing your face, you reminded me. I owe Amber something. And I love it. Alexandra Nicole says here, using the transcript from my podcast and converting them into articles. Thank you, Alexandra. Yes, powerful. If you go to zoneofgenius.com, you go to celebrityceo.com, much of the content there is converted from the podcast I've been giving. So podcast shared with your guests. Don't forget to share it out. Hey, you were on my podcast. Thanks so much for being here. If you want to use this content for yourself, here it is. And another thing that my coach, Lamar Tyler, told me is that don't forget, you can go on YouTube and add other YouTube videos that you appear in, other people's videos, not your own, meaning not that you've done, but onto the channels. You can add them to your own playlist, and then you can put that playlist on your YouTube page. If you go to youtube.com/ at Zone of Genius, yes, that's the Zone of Genius YouTube channel, youtube.com/ at Zone of Genius, yes, you'll see a section there of content where I am speaking and being interviewed and etc. So you may want to do that for yourself. All right. Again, if you just joined, thanks for your patience in being here. If you guys are wondering, Ramon seems a bit off. Ramon doesn't seem to be himself. Well, not feeling so well, but I'm here and I'm showing up for you. Another thing to remember is a podcast as a hook for speaking opportunities. Now, most event planners, most people who are getting you to speak, they're going to want to see you on stage and see how you look in a total proper element. However, having said that, remember, at least it's something. They can see that you're well spoken. They can see that you're knowledgeable, especially those of you who don't have stage video yet. And maybe that could be good enough for your first speaking gig. Maybe it's a small speaking gig. Maybe it's a big speaking gig. But those of you, especially if you don't have video of you on a stage yet, which is important, you can leverage your podcast as for speaking opportunities. Next up is podcast to a book. Seth Godin has written many, many books. This is his book here. This is Marketing. And this is a repurposing of many of his blog posts. That's not bad. That's a good thing. The blog posts are fragmented. And you got to go back and read each one, which few people will do. But you bundle it together into a book, you're going to get more traction. So those of you who have blog posts, those of you who are doing podcasts, you may want to work with an executive assistant, work with a copywriter, work with an admin and say, hey, listen, take my best podcast, take my best blog post, bundle these into a book. And like Seth Godin has done, you may have your first or second book. Again, everybody, thanks for joining me here. My name is Ramon Ray. This is the Rundown with Ramon, the Celebrity CEO Show. Glad you're here today. Eric, thank you, Amber. Glad you like that YouTube playlist tip. Appreciate it very, very much. Moving forward, a podcast is a vehicle for you to advertise. You don't have to look for advertisers for your podcast. Do you know who should be the first advertisers for your podcast? Who do you think should be the first advertiser for your podcast? It should be you. You should be the first advertiser for your podcast. You don't have to go try to get Nike or Uber or some big brand to advertise on your podcast. Advertise your own things on your podcast. I put in call to actions throughout this show. I've said, hey, go to zoneofgenius.com, sign up for our email newsletter. Don't miss out on tips to grow your business. I said, go to celebrityceo.com, sign up for our Celebrity CEO personal branding blueprint. I'm advertising there, putting out great information for those of you who are interested. So you should be the advertiser of your podcast. And understand, going back to podcasts in general, as we kind of wrap up this segment here, if you have questions that you want me to answer right now, feel free to put in the chat and I'll do so. Your podcast is only going to get better and better. My podcast that I'm doing today, and again, today my energy is a little low because I'm not feeling so well, but this show, the Celebrity CEO Show on the Rundown with Ramon, has gotten better and better and better. When I first started out, it wasn't the same way it is today. So your day one is not going to be how it is on day 20. It's not going to be how it is on day 50. It's not going to be how it is on day 100. And I want to talk about numbers just a little bit here because numbers are important. As I said before, you may see Mr. Beast and other things that they're doing. Yes, Amber, indeed. He has millions and millions and millions of followers. Don't worry about having millions and millions and millions of followers. Maybe that will happen. Maybe that will happen to you over time. But focus on doing a good show. Focus on doing a good podcast. Focus on delivering great information. Oh, I love it. What's the best platform to host a podcast on? I don't think there's any one particular best platform, Amber, but thank you so much for the question. I appreciate it. But a few platforms. So I'm doing a podcast right now. This here I'm going live using Restream, or you can use StreamYard or other platforms because I want to go live. Then I download the MP4 file, the video file, or I download the audio file, and then I manually upload that to Spotify. So Spotify is my podcast host, but there's many others like Libsyn, Lisbyn, Libsyn, and other podcast hosts. Then they spread your podcast to Apple iTunes, which is the biggest out there, and other platform providers. So that's how I do it. But the main thing is to record that audio. And if you don't want to go live, you can use something like Zoom, which works just fine. Only thing I don't like is it has a more narrow ratio. It doesn't go full screen like this. But a Zoom can work, or Microsoft Teams, or any of those other platforms where you can remotely bring somebody in and have them sharing it. So this is doable. Love it. LaShawn says she wants to do a podcast about microbiome health providers provide solutions to improving your overall center of health. I love it. A health podcast and going specifically about microbiomes. I love it. So everybody listen. My name is Ramon, plowing through. I'm feeling a little okay, like 90%. But those who don't know, I had my hat off yesterday. I shaved my head yesterday, had my hat off in the train. I was meeting somebody yesterday going to Brooklyn. And I just all of a sudden didn't feel so well. And so I shouldn't have taken my hat off. When my hat goes off in the wind and the coldness, I get sick pretty easily. But I'm getting better. It's just I wasn't 100%, but I was on the couch today and I was like, you know what? Do I still want to bring this knowledge? Do I still want to bring this information? I could have just not shown up. And anytime you don't see me, there's a reason for it. But I said, yeah, I still want to bring the Rundown with Ramon, the Celebrity CEO show, to this audience. So thanks for being here. Thanks for showing up. Whether those of you watching it live, those of you watching it on demand, I'm glad you're here. Have a beautiful, beautiful, amazing day. And as I always say, because it's so important, do me a favor. DM somebody today, direct message somebody today, email somebody today, text somebody today, check in on them. Let them know that you care. Let them know that they matter. Let them know that they have worth and have value. Because I want you to know, LaShawn, you have value. I want you to know, Eric, you have value. I want you to know, Amber, you have value. I want you to know, Alexandria, you have value. Tara, you have value. Everybody, thanks for being here. If you've seen this show on your TV screen, your living room, or the big screen, do me a favor, take a screenshot of it. It looks so cool. I love getting pictures from my viewers. They're like, Ramon, I see the Rundown with Ramon in the elevator. I see the Rundown with Ramon here and there. So I appreciate y'all being here. LaShawn, thanks for saying that. Even though I didn't feel 100% power, I'm glad the show was still powerful. Y'all have a great day and be blessed. And I'll see you in the next edition of the Rundown with Ramon.